Hey guys, Haikrazon here with another 5 Platinum trophies ranked by difficulty, easy to hard, beginner to master, however you want to look at it, through various different genres, different time commitments, and really a whole lot of other nonsense that goes into trophy hunting. So this one's going to be a little bit different. I'm not always going to be doing games that I really loved. The idea of the series, or some of our series, is to help recommend new platinums to people that maybe slept on an indie title, didn't know something existed, or maybe thought the trophy list would be hard or time consuming or something like that. So 2 of the titles in here are actually kind of hit or miss. One was genuinely awful, had an awful time, still did it, whatever. And the other one I kind of really enjoyed, but it didn't have the greatest public opinion. And we'll get into it, so check it out and tell me what you guys think. Alright, so number 1, we're going to start out pretty easy, pretty simple, but with a really cute and charming game. It's called Unpacking. Unpacking is a puzzle game, I guess, if you had to put it into a genre, but it follows the story of this girl as she grows up and moves from her childhood bedroom to her college dorm to her first apartment. She ends up moving in with a significant other, and the whole story is told through this picture scrapbook that she makes as you unpack and organize everything. Again, it's a pretty simple game, kind of akin to that feeling you get in Tetris when you clear a perfect level, or if you like things like Power Wash Simulator, where you kind of get rid of the clutter and you just get that really clean feeling. But it's all done with this really gorgeous pixel art. There's a nice little calm soundtrack as well. And again, the story is actually done pretty impressively for how little of a story there is, but you'll kind of see what I mean. The trophy list is pretty straightforward. A fair bit of them do come from just unpacking through all the years, which are the different levels and the different locations. But a lot of them are actually kind of silly ones, like solving a Rubik's Cube, or flushing all the toilets, making an equation with magnets on the fridge, things like that. But there is level select, so even if you just clear the game normally, you can just easily go back and do those things real quick. All in, it's only going to take you a handful of hours, maybe 4 to 6. And my favorite thing about this game, or these kinds of games, is that they're really great for taking a break. You know, if you just cleared some 50-60 hour plat, or a huge open world game, or you're doing a lot of multiplayer stuff, this is an amazing title to just kind of chill with. If you're OCD, it feels really good to unpack and organize everything. Again, it's very cute and charming, and it's just a great game to kind of put between that more intensive stuff. So number 2 is going to be kind of a weird one for me. It's called Witchwood. It's a 2D indie story-driven game with the majority of the gameplay, actually all of it, all being resource gathering and crafting. Now, I did not enjoy this at all. Maybe for the first hour or 2, but this one really just was not for me. Now, that's not to say that there aren't good things about the game. There's actually a lot of great things about the game, and I'll go ahead and knock those out first. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's like a 2D, almost papercraft kind of style. It's all about like witches and nature, and again, gathering the resources. The biomes are really cool. The story is pretty neat and well written, but man, it was a slog. It's super straightforward, but there is so much back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Every guide's gonna say, you know, make sure you pick up all of the items you see on the ground at any given time, and that's fine. That's what I did. But there's so many items you need to interact with different items that you crafted, or this and that are just tedious to get in general. Then you end up needing a lot of those. It's a big game of back and forth that really just kind of got pretty old and mundane very, very fast, for me at least. It also has weirdly strange performance for what it is. I mean, I was playing on PS5, and again, this is just a 2D game, but I was dropping frames like every time going into the hub world to change biomes, and I actually crashed several times as well. But again, it was weird to see how consistent the frame dropping was for a simple game like this. One thing that really stuck out as kind of strange but also pretty unique, this is the only legit game, like no clicker BS or anything like that, right? The only genuine game I personally have ever played where all you need to do to get the platinum is beat the game. All of the trophies are tied to each chapter and each act, which deals with handling a certain, I don't want to say enemy, but you know, it's story, it's who you're going after kind of thing. You get the trophy for doing that, and all of the trophies are literally just clearing all the chapters, and you get the platinum. I have never seen that in another game. Not that it's not out there. Again, I just haven't seen it. On that note, again, the game is pretty simple. It is pretty straightforward. If you don't remember where all the resources are, you have a little handbook in the game that will tell you where to go. You may need to look up something on how to interact or deal with a certain mob to get a certain ingredient, something like that. But again, overall, simple and straightforward, but with all the back and forth and the tedium, it felt so long. I mean, it's only going to take you probably 8 to 12 hours. For me, at least personally, it felt a lot longer than that, and it just felt like it was slogging on and on and on. I really didn't want to finish it, but I was like already over halfway through. I was like, well, I want the 100%. So that's kind of how I felt with that one. So number 3, kind of similar to the last episode, we're actually going to use a AAA title here. This one's Deathloop. So before anything, I love Arcane Studios. I love their art direction. I love most of their games. They're just a really great studio that I really enjoy what they put out. That being said, getting the platinum on this felt so much better than getting the platinum on the Dishonored's. Don't force me to play a pacifist playthrough, I fucking hate that. But this was a great game with a very reasonable trophy list. Again, being a AAA game, I'm sure you guys all know plenty about this title already. It's kind of neat getting to see the roguelite aspect kind of injected into the AAA world a little bit, but it's very generous, it's very forgiving, it's definitely not like any of the indie roguelites that are going to take you 100 hours to beat just because of RNG alone. But I really loved the story, the voice acting was fantastic to me, and the endings actually made a lot of sense, and a lot of games screw up endings now. There's 3 of them, and I thought they all worked pretty well. Being a higher budget game, of course, adds smooth gunplay, offered a variety of different play styles, lots of different really cool powers to kind of suit whatever it is you're trying to do, and the best part, completing the game really feels like a heist plan coming together and succeeding, especially when you kind of get more clues, and then it all pieces together at the end was really awesome. With the trophy list, of course, you're going to get a fair amount of them just from doing the story, right? That's normal. But there's actually kind of a lot of cleanup in this one with things to look out for, whether it's killing certain targets in specific ways, getting or upgrading gear, doing things with loadouts, completing loops under certain conditions, all sorts of stuff like that. However, there's no missables or anything like that. You can redo your days, you can end your days whenever you want, so that way you can make sure you're getting all of these if you just want to kind of wrap up and be done once you actually decide to beat the game. There are a couple of online trophies, which I know, trophy hunters hate online stuff, and that's totally valid, I totally agree, but these aren't anything crazy or outlandish. They're easily doable naturally, but if the community does die by the time you get around to this, they can easily be done with a buddy or boosting sessions on PSNP or something like that. You're looking at a total of 15 to 20 hours, which for me is a sweet spot when it comes to trophy hunting, just for, balancing and juggling life, work, all that fun stuff. But you're gonna have a good time while doing it. Some of it is straightforward enough to still just be standard rewarding, right? Cool, whatever. Then there's some other clear conditions that are actually really tricky and that will have you restarting checkpoints, looking up videos on YouTube, whatever it may be. So it was rewarding still at the same time. Alright, so number 4 is a game that didn't really do so well, but I did enjoy getting the platinum on it. It's Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins. So there's kind of a lot to talk about with this game. Honestly, I'm not even sure if it was supposed to be a AAA title or not. The dev team behind it is Team Ninja, which they did the Ninja Gaiden games, the Neo games, which I really love those. But when you actually look at it, or if you've heard any of the reviews, seen the reviews, or even played it yourself, there's kind of a lot of weird stuff going on. It looks really, really dated, honestly. A lot of times I kind of felt like I was playing a PS2 game, which was strange. It was also a kind of Souls take on Final Fantasy, which kind of fell through a little bit just because it ended up being more hack and slash than anything else anyways, which was fine with me, but that's kind of what they were going for. And again, it didn't super do very well with the general public. It was a roller coaster for me, honestly. The writing was so freaking cheesy. The voice acting, it wasn't atrocious, but it wasn't really great either. And again, the graphics, man, I am not kidding, really felt like I was in a PS2 game at points, and there's this weird bloom effect on way too much of the game. I don't know why. However, where Team Ninja really exceeds expectations all of the time for me personally is their mechanics, and the mechanics were so tight here. The gameplay itself, very fluid, again, hack and slash, super cool mechanics, very flashy stuff, very anime Final Fantasy stuff, right? And the class system was done so awesomely. You can level each individual class. You end up going into hybrid classes. You unlock actives. You unlock passives. You can limit boost or limit break the actual classes as well, and there's so much that goes into it. Then you have all of your tier colored rarities on all of your equipment, so you can get the same chest piece but rolled in a billion different ways. More modifiers for the higher rarity, the post-game rarities, all sorts of really awesome mechanic stuff that just really speaks to me. Again, they did do Neo, and it is similar in that fashion. So the actual playing felt really great, even if the story itself was a little on the harder side to get through. But the ending was pretty neat, I will give them that. The trophy list is, of course, beating the game, right? Handling various things in the post-game chaos difficulty, completing all side quests, which is kind of a little bit like collectibles. I'll get a little more into that later. And then the grind of the platinum is maxing out one of the classes. The side quests are a little bit interesting because most of them just appear through story progression like normal, right? But a fair amount of them actually come from picking up memories in other levels, which isn't really a big deal. I mean, you can find guides for finding them and everything like that. But on an initial blind playthrough, man, again, to talk back to the graphics, they're so poor sometimes that these would actually blend in with the low graphics of some of the areas and the environments to where I was like, man, I can just not find this, and I had to use a guide. So that was a little frustrating, but it was kind of weird and neat that it was worked into collectibles like that. But here's where the grind really starts, and maxing a class is pretty involved. It's pretty intensive, and there's a lot of things you got to do before you can even try to do this. So before anything, you need to beat the game, right? Cool, that's how you unlock chaos difficulty, so you can do all the missions in higher difficulty. But before this, every class only has a level cap of 30. After beating the story, the side quest rewards change on the chaos difficulty, and amongst these rewards are limit releases that allow you to level the classes further. These are locked to specific side missions and specific classes though, so you'll need to find whichever it is that you want to go for, whether you're just trying to get it done quickly or if you want to do a class you really enjoy. So you need 3 in total for whichever class it is that you're going to use for the trophy. So definitely pull up a guide just to help, streamline that process. But after that, you actually have to farm the levels. And if you're using the right mission, it can go by kind of okay, but it's still going to be time intensive, and the grind gets very real from that point. Oh, and there's a Chaos Mode specific currency that you only get from completing other missions on Chaos Mode that you then in turn need to spend on other side missions, unlocking them for higher difficulties of Chaos Mode. You're looking at about 40 hours, which honestly I do think is a little low for a 4 rating, right? But since it is kind of Souls-esque with a tedious grind, I thought that's kind of where it should land. Overall, I really enjoyed it, not the entire time, and again, it does have several flaws, but the gameplay, for me, makes up for it for the most part, just not completely. Alright, so number 5, I'm always going to try to make something that's either really niche or really time consuming with a big commitment. So number 5 is actually going to be Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. So first and foremost, this is a rhythm game, which automatically puts it into a class of its own because 1, it's a niche genre, right? And 2, not everybody wasted their entire lives being a master Guitar Hero nerd like I did. So it's a spin-off Kingdom Hearts game, which is what made me want to play it. I freaking love the Kingdom Hearts games. Regardless of how hard the platinum was, I really wanted to do this. It's honestly a bit more involved than Guitar Hero or Rock Band or anything like that though, with some pretty intense parts as well. It's primarily just face buttons and triggers, but they control different attacks required for different enemies, as well as jumping and gliding for dodging and attacking those enemies in the air, all sorts of different stuff like that. I have always loved the score on Kingdom Hearts games, whether it's their OST, which is of course more like Final Fantasy type stuff, right? Or even the Disney songs for a little bit of nostalgia. The World Tour mode uses their typical world traveling with the gummy ship, which is always welcome. It's a nice little relaxing kind of piece, right? Then each world also has several songs and challenges within the songs, and this always culminates to a more cinematic boss fight with a different style of play that actually it changes your rhythm path, where the notes are, different things you gotta do. Now, this is a really challenging platinum, again, especially if you're not already inclined to playing rhythm games. What I find kind of odd though is that the guides typically list it around like a 4 out of 10, but I could not disagree with that more. That's crazy to me. That sounds like the guys that try and rate all the Souls games as like a 2 or something like that. I mean, seriously, like I've spent an embarrassing amount of years playing and mastering Guitar Hero games, Rock Band games, whatever. Even back in the day, I could full combo through the Fire and Flames. So I'm not kidding, like on the rhythm stuff, man, this is not a 4 out of 10. I don't know who said that. This is a hard game with an incredibly tedious grind at the end. The trophy list is honestly pretty straightforward, especially if you just read it at face value. The typical path is beat the game, make sure you play all of the songs, which is 150 of them, clear 50 songs with full chains, a few versus mode trophies, and lastly, cleanup. Oh wait, I forgot to mention you need to clear every song on every difficulty because it doesn't stack. Same goes with the 50 full chains on each difficulty. This is not innately a hard thing, as you don't need to perform well while clearing every song, minus the 50 full chains, but that'll be easy as you're burning through this. But at 150 songs in 3 difficulties at 2+ minutes each, that's 450 songs, and tens of hours just for this step with no possible way to speed this up. That's just super repetitious. Along the way, you will get better and more comfortable with the game. That's just kind of how it happens as a practiced skill, and that's going to make the 50 full chains very doable, especially on the easier tracks, of course. Here's the funny part though, even after 450 songs, that's not even the grind of the game. There are various other cleanup trophies that I'm not even gonna mention because most of them you will absolutely get during the grind phase. The last trophy you're gonna need is killing 100,000 enemies. Let me put that into a little bit of perspective here. After getting literally every other trophy in the game, I had around 50 to 60,000 enemy kills. After everything else. And again, not to like brag or anything, but I'm really good at rhythm games. So on all of my 450 playthroughs, I was getting a ton of full chains and just hitting a lot of notes, quote unquote, the enemies. And that's still where I landed. This is either gonna take you forever and be easy, or be incredibly intensive and still take a long time. Check out this breakdown for one of the better options to do this, and watch a bit of me getting a full chain on the hardest song in the game, which also happens to be the best method in the breakdown. Let's pretend you finished all the other trophies landing at around 50,000 enemies, and you are a god at this game, and you do this track and you get full chains every single time. On the breakdown, that's still 6 hours and 5 minutes of the same song over and over and over and over. I cannot tell you how many times again and over. It was atrocious, and I, again, love rhythm games. It was super fun, the song is super fun, but I don't want to play one song for 6 hours. There is a really odd turbo controller method you can use for this, but I don't even want to know how long it would take, because it requires you to just, turbo a button and keep failing the song and retrying the song and failing the song and retrying the song. So I don't even want to see a breakdown for that. I still really loved the game and had an incredible time. Again, it's one of my favorite franchises. I love the music. I love rhythm games. But you really got to be committed for this one. I mean, realistically, you're only looking at like 50 or so hours. Again, as long as you're not doing that grind on the easier difficulties. And unfortunately, a lot of those hours are doing the same things over and over, unfortunately. So the game itself is absolutely incredible. The trophy list, whew, would I like to have a word with them? Not the most fun thing ever. So that's it, guys. That's another 5 platinum trophies broken down by difficulty. Please let me know what some of your rankings would be in the comments below. I really want to talk to you guys about some of your proudest achievements, or maybe even some of the easy, quick ones you've done too. So don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of the other trophy hunting content that I make. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one.
Say the dang.
What?
Huh?
What?
Productions.